Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon Lavin. I am the Marketing and Communications Lead for Google's Veteran Employee Resource Group, also known as VetNet. I'm a Navy veteran, and I've been a huge supporter of Irreverent Warriors since stumbling upon one of their hikes back in 2019. And before we get into the chat, a huge note to viewers that we will be covering some very heavy and sensitive mental health topics, specifically on veteran suicide. And if you are a member of the military community seeking support for yourself or a loved one, you can find resources at g.co/servingveterans. So without further ado, today, Irreverent Warriors brings more than 50,000 active duty service members, reservists, and veterans together at Silky's Hikes held in 125 cities globally. Through these very one-of-a-kind events, veterans support one another through humor and tough love, forming networks that solve the most crucial issue contributing to veteran suicide: isolation. I first came across IW when I saw a huge crowd of grown men and women walking around Chicago's Navy Pier in short shorts and combat boots. It was an extremely memorable experience. And so I absolutely had to look up what it was that they were doing. And ever since then, once I actually connected with the IW community, I've participated in 2 Silky's hikes myself, one in Chicago, and most recently the one in San Diego, where I had the great pleasure and privilege of meeting Cindy McNally, the CEO and president of Irreverent Warriors. After she let me get a sneak peek at their documentary, The Hike Back, I absolutely knew right then and there that we needed to find a way to amplify the phenomenal work Irreverent Warriors are doing to bring veterans together using humor and camaraderie to improve mental health and to prevent veteran suicide. The Hike Back documentary gives an exclusive behind-the-scenes look into all of these notable Silky's hikes and how the communities and camaraderie formed at these events enable veterans to pay it forward and help each other combat suicide. During this chat, we'll be discussing their Irreverent Warriors mission, their upcoming documentary, and the important role their events play in veterans' lives worldwide. I am incredibly honored that Nate, Cindy, and Ronnie from the Irreverent Warriors leadership team agreed to join us today to chat about a mission that is so close to my heart and to share a preview of the Hike Back with all of you. The documentary premieres tomorrow on November 11th, Veterans Day, with viewings scheduled all over the country throughout the next couple of months. And to introduce the panel, please join me in extending a warm welcome to Nate McDonald, Cindy McNally, and Ronnie Gonzalez. So first up, we have Nate McDonald. Nate served in the Marine Corps as an intelligence operator for special projects. He was honorably discharged in 2012 after joint operations combat tours in multiple theaters. As a civilian, he worked as a consultant and subject matter expert in tactical intelligence operations and has supported various government and military organizations. Nate has worked for multiple military and veteran organizations over the last decade and now serves as the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Irreverent Warriors. He experienced the toll that military service takes on so many by losing comrades both in the line of duty and also as a result of psychological battles they continue to fight afterwards. After getting out of active duty, Nate was determined to make a positive impact in the military and veteran communities. With Irreverent Warriors, he saw an opportunity to help eliminate isolation, one of the most significant issues contributing to the mental health struggles in the military and veteran communities. And Nate believes everyone is still fighting their own battles, but no one should have to fight them alone. And next up, we have Cindy, who is the current CEO and president of Irreverent Warriors. Cindy McNally served in the Army and Texas Army National Guard. She enlisted in 1978 and went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, where she was in the second cycle of co-ed basic training. She received her commission in the Texas Army National Guard State OCS program. She has 2 children who served in the U.S. Army and was married to Captain Rand McNally, United States Marine Corps, a Naval Academy graduate of the class of 1976 and F-4 Phantom pilot. After 24 years of marriage, a successful career in medicine and aviation, and dedicating his life to his family, Rand tragically committed suicide, leaving no answers as to why. Years later, it was through the Irreverent Warrior Silky's hikes that she, her daughter, and son experienced the life-changing healing that can take place in the company of other warriors through the camaraderie that is so unique to IW. As a result of this experience, she has committed the last 6.5 years to serving the Irreverent Warriors organization as National Hike Coordinator for 2 years and as President CEO since November of 2018. She has put together a team of motivated, passionate, and qualified veterans that grew the organization to what it is today. It started out with one hike, and what started as a movement developed into the organization it is today, with over 80 veteran suicide prevention hikes across the country and internationally just this year. More than 250 hikes over the last 6 years, and the total impact to veterans is over 60,000 veterans have been reached through these hikes. She is also the proud Nana to 5 grandchildren and is known by most, myself included, as Mama Bear because she is fiercely protective of those who have answered the call and sworn to serve this great country. And last but absolutely not least, I'm excited to welcome Ronnie Gonzalez, the director of the Hike Back. Ronnie was born in Cuba. He and his parents immigrated to the United States when he was 8 years old and grew up in a working class family in Miami. At the age of 17, he opted to join the U.S. Army as a medic, and he did this for multiple reasons. The biggest was looking for the chance to break out of the cycle of poverty many of his family were stuck in. During his time in service, he would deploy to Iraq and Afghanistan. Of the two, Afghanistan was the worst, and after spending a year overseas, he decided to end his service. That's when the real battle for him began. I was a mess, an absolute nightmare of a person when I came home. After bouncing from major to major in college, he decided to take a semester of film studies to keep his educational benefits active while he figured things out. In his words, my first class was screenwriting, and that was it. I was hooked. It felt silly after being a medic for so long to end up studying film, but this is how I got my voice back and my life. And since graduation, Ronnie has worked extensively in corporate media and videography in general, but as he says, film is where my heart is and always will be. Please join me in a warm welcome to Nate, Cindy, and Ronnie. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. And now is where the fun begins, where I get to ask you guys questions and you get to showcase all of the great work that IW is doing.
All right, great to be with you.
It's fantastic to have you. So for all of the viewers out there, they don't necessarily know exactly what it is that Irreverent Warriors does. We gave them a brief overview, but I would love to hear from all three of you. What is your story? Like, what drew you to Irreverent Warriors, and why is this mission something that is so close and near and dear to your heart? And Cindy, would you like to go first?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so back in 2016, I saw a promotion for the Houston Silkies hike, and that was the very beginning. And I thought, looked like a really cool event. And I thought it'd be a great idea to bring my kids in. So Stephanie and Neil, they're both just recently gotten off active duty, and we didn't get together very often. And I missed that family connection. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to bring them in. Stephanie came in from Savannah and Neil came in from Fort Lewis, Washington. And we showed up, and I said, I don't know what we're going to get into. I don't know what this is about, but it's a great opportunity to maybe drink a beer and have some fun and talk about Dad, just maybe do some reminiscing. And we showed up, and the energy was, we knew that we'd found our community. And again, it wasn't just the energy between me and my kids, which is pretty powerful when we all get together, but within the whole hike itself, we just realized that these are our people. And so Stephanie and I did our own hike. We went to Savannah and did a hike out there. And then I started helping other people on the East Coast. And then Donnie found out about that I was doing this, asked if I'd run the hikes nationally. And it really I didn't have a why initially. It was a because. I showed up because I thought it would be fun. But then it's turned into, my why has turned into the fact that the impact we have on so many lives. I see lives touched and changed and saved every day. And the testimonials coming out of these sites are overwhelmingly beautiful and positive. And it has now become my why. I do this because we have a new family. And Shannon, you and Matt now are part of our family, part of my family. So that was the evolution, and it's amazing where we are today. It's not the IW we started out with, but we are going places, and it's been an amazing journey.
It's incredible. And I love that you're able to bring your family, and I'm bringing my new family into this as well, and we're creating one. Ronnie, is that kind of also how you felt and how you got involved with IW?
Yeah, well, my story's a little bit less climactic. I was just in college, and at the time I was trying to build up my reel. So I just showed up to one of these hikes with a camera, and I had zero expectations. I didn't know anything about it. Again, just went in there blind. And within 15 minutes of it, I was just completely hooked. It's addictive. It really is an addictive environment. Just the energy, like Cindy mentioned. I just started filming. I made like a nice little video for them, and they liked it. So they wanted me to come back with my camera again and again. And so from then on, it was just Ronnie and his camera, Ronnie and his camera. And you've been to hikes, so you know that you can always capture something really funny, really sweet. So to me, it was just a natural process. Like, this is a great place. There's great stories. Where else are you going to get stories like this? So as a filmmaker and documentarian, it just perfect fit for me. It wasn't a long process at all. It was like literally one hike and I'm hooked.
I completely understand that feeling. And Nate, I might have peeked at some of your other podcasts that you've done before and think your story might have been similar to that as well, right?
Yeah, kind of. So I was in Fayetteville. At the time I was working as a contractor for JSOC, and very, very busy. But in my spare time, I was trying to invest in a mission that really mattered to me. From the time before I got out of the Marine Corps, I understood the importance of trying to combat suicide and improve mental health and welfare, really just the veteran condition worldwide. So I'd been a part of a lot of different operations and organizations. One of my friends in Fayetteville, North Carolina, said, "Hey, we're trying to bring a hike here. We're doing a ruck around Fayetteville. Would you like to help?" So I helped coordinate that event, not really knowing what I was getting into, similar to Ronnie in that way. Went through all the logistics, got everything figured out, and on hike day, my whole perspective of what this ruck was completely changed. I thought of it as an athletic event. And sure, people were coming together, but I didn't really understand the second we stepped off, and I was leading the element, but the environment was contagious. I just felt this power behind me. And all of these veterans were they were connecting in a way I hadn't seen at any of the other events or in any of the other organizations that I'd been a part of. So that, once again, was my hook. Just seeing the power, the impact of bringing a veteran and a veteran together in an exclusive environment where they can say what they need to say and be who they need to be and open up to each other. Danny, the founder of the organization, and Cindy were both there at the event, and at a barbecue following the event, we were all talking, and they asked if I wanted to be a bigger part of the organization. I said, absolutely not. I don't have time. And then just was compelled to keep going to events, keep helping. And a lot of the things that I wanted to see in the organization were things that Cindy wanted to see and that Danny wanted to see. And then we had our first national conference in 2019. And at that point, I'd taken on marketing, public affairs, social media, like 2 or 3 other facets of the organization shortly after Cindy became president. And I would say it was about 3 or 4 months later, and they asked me to be the chief operating officer and vice president.
That's amazing. Cindy, I know a lot of these roads lead back to you, and you've done so much for this organization. I think one of the questions that our viewers might have is, okay, now we're painting the picture in our head. You've got a bunch of grown men and women in short shorts and combat boots walking around the cities and basically having a good time. But how does this relate back to preventing veteran suicide? Like, exactly how does IW prevent veteran suicide?
Yeah, a lot of times people associate our organization with bringing awareness to veteran suicide. And as veterans, we are intimately aware of the epidemic of suicide. So what we actually do is, I feel like that preventing it is we actually pull people out of isolation, because that's one of the biggest contributing factors. People don't feel connected in the community. They don't feel they have any purpose or value in life since they've been off active duty, and they tend to isolate. And so one of the things that the hikes will bring familiar things to them. If you put on a pair of boots, throw on a ruck, that's something familiar. It's kind of nostalgic. So it's one of the things that will attract them to getting out of the house. It's one of those things that they associate with their past and still want that, be able to feel that. And then the fact that we're outdoors and hiking, again, they had mentioned it's not an athletic event. We walk, and that facilitates conversation, and we have you're getting fresh air, you're around other people. Even if you show up not knowing anybody or even not really wanting to talk, just the fact that you are not holed up in your cave, you're out, you're in the sunshine, you're meeting other people, even if you don't talk, you've got the energy around you. And I will say 9 times out of 10, by the end of the day, you have that new family, you've made connection. And even if you don't make that connection, there's positivity around you all day long. There's laughter. And it a lot of times it's just enough to get you through to get to the next hike. So it's the fact that we pull people out of isolation, get them involved. We've had people, this has improved marriages, this improved relationships. We have people now focused on trying to live a better, healthier lifestyle. It just gives people a little bit of inspiration, and it brings some positivity into their life.
Yeah, it truly does. When Matthew and I did this last hike in San Diego, we walked away with so many new friends. Like, you see somebody else from the same service, you start talking to them, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're pretty much family. And I think that's one of the really unique part of this organization is that the method that you're using to actually prevent veteran suicide is through humor and camaraderie. Nate, Ronnie, would love to turn this over to you guys, and just, do you have a story about how humor and camaraderie were so important in your military life to why that is so important now for this mission?
Sure. Since I'm unmuted, I'm going to go ahead and do mine, I guess. Well, first of all, without humor and camaraderie, you're not going to survive any war. It's been since, the Iliad all the way up to global war on terror. You always find the humor, you always find the brotherhood, and that's what gets you along to get through everything. But there is a big word that Cindy used just now, the big P word, which is what really drew me back into the veteran community, and that's purpose. Immediately after college, on top of everything else that I had going on psychologically, I was just kind of floating around. I had no idea what I was going to do next. Like I said, I was just getting my reel built and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I go to the hike, and suddenly I have a purpose again. They need me for marketing purposes, and they need me for my skills and my abilities and all that. And now I'm laughing again. I forgot what laughter was like. You can't laugh with civilians about all the the stuff that goes on inside of your head. And suddenly I just realized that there's an entire world of people like me just kind of hurting quietly. And when you go to these hikes, very often you find them, or somehow it's like a magnet. They're just drawn to each other. But absolutely, I don't think you can survive. I don't think you can make it through life without a sense of humor. And camaraderie just takes you that extra step. If you got somebody along your side that knows where you come from and knows what you've been through, at least a little bit, that's all the difference it takes. That's just enough of an opening for you to actually vent out the pain. And that's what these hikes have done for me. Purpose and just venting out. So yeah, and Nate, that's all you, man.
Sure. So the big thing that we're asked over and over is, what's the magic behind Irreverent Warriors? Like, what makes you guys so effective? And honestly, it's not us. We provide opportunity. The hike, we say over and over, it's a construct. It's a way to get a certain demographic of veterans that's a little bit underserved to come out of isolation and attend something that looks interesting. But at the end of the day, the magic happens when that connection happens between a veteran and another veteran. And that's been amazing to see. Throughout my entire career, humor was a huge part of how we coped. And a lot of people are like, well, if you're just joking about it, you're not addressing the issue. And that wasn't necessarily the choice. When you have that camaraderie, the other half of this equation, your brother is gonna make you go address stuff. They're the ones that pluck you off the couch and say, hey, man, maybe you need to take care of yourself. Or, hey, I identified you've got some darkness going on. Go get some help. I'll go with you. Like, that's the camaraderie aspect of it. If all we did was joke about the problems, nothing would ever happen. The humor is a way for us to relate to each other, to communicate to each other. That was, I guess, the reason why Irreverent Warriors felt like home more than any other place is when I transitioned from the Marine Corps into the civilian world, it was a little bumpy. We'll say that. I went through a tough period, and there were several times during that period where I felt completely alone. I had access to a community. I knew about veteran resources. I'd been a part of veteran organizations and veteran missions. And yet I just felt this darkness, this isolation. And when I was by myself dealing with that darkness, it was one of the scariest things I've been through. I mean, put me back in the sandbox any day. I don't want to deal with myself by myself. That's terrifying. So finding Irreverent Warriors, it was crazy difference from a lot of the other places I've been to. I was told over and over, go to the VA. It's good for your health. I was told to connect with other veterans there. We sat in a group and it was so calm and quiet and sanitary and sad. And I felt myself get a little bit more depressed. And I'm not saying it doesn't work for everyone. Every veteran's different. Their condition is different. What they need is different. I didn't need that kind of therapy. So running into the Irreverent Warriors culture and mission, and then that tribe, it was completely different. That felt comfortable. It felt like family. And instead of having that uncomfortable conversation sitting on the couch next to somebody I didn't really connect to, I was venting in my way with my people. And it was an amazing thing to be a part of.
Yeah, I'm laughing during this, not because this is a funny topic, but because so many of those thoughts have gone through my own head. Like you said, your brain is a terrifying place to live in when you don't have anybody else there to kind of bounce ideas off of. So going to these hikes is a serious matter, but at the same time, for personal reasons, like the humor is what helped me transition out as well and also find a community. Cindy, I know your ties to this is extremely personal, and you have brought your son and daughter into these hikes. Could you tell us a little bit about how you were able to kind of see the light in the darkness by the humor that you guys use to cope and communicate with one another?
Yeah, sure. We grew up with Rand being a Marine, and in my military background, we raised our kids with dark humor. So this was a natural progression for us. And with Stephanie, I've seen she was in a dark place, and watching her come out and just engage with other people and laugh again and get silly. In fact, her brother was there that day too, and Neil was looking at her going, she's just being silly. And it was amazing to watch. So as a mom, I watched my daughter, the light come on inside of her again. It'd been so long. And with Neil, he was a little more stoic in the beginning, but his sense of humor is very dry. And by the end of the day, I was watching him laugh too. So as a mom, I watched my two children, there's life back in their eyes again. And it was powerful to me. And so as a mom, but for me personally, just even recently, I mean, like this last weekend, I was in a bad place. There's things happening, and I felt despair. I couldn't see any hope. And I knew, I'm sitting here saying, we preach, go get help. We preach, reach out to somebody. And I couldn't do it. I was frozen. And I'm like, I've got to do this. I get it now. I get why people don't. It sounds so easy. You're not alone. Just reach out. I was sitting there paralyzed, knowing I needed to reach out, and I couldn't. It was hard. But because I trust and love the leadership in this organization, I couldn't make a phone call, but I sent an email or I sent a message, and I said, guys, I'm this dark. Yeah. And so they couldn't fix what was going on in my life. That's not what we do. We don't fix each other. But I knew I wasn't alone. And just knowing that, and I also could hear the hurt in their voices. They were taking my hurt too. They were carrying my pain with me. And that will save your life.
Yeah. Sending you a huge hug from San Diego, and hopefully one day soon in person. And I'm so glad that Ronnie is there with you to physically not be alone during this, because I can only imagine how hard it is to deal with all of the things in your personal life. Plus, happy birthday to all the Marines. So that's also probably weighing on you a little bit. And it's Veterans Day tomorrow. Like, this is a huge week for all of us on the call, all of our families. And a lot of times it unearths some of those not as pleasant emotions. So I'm just so grateful that all of you are here and just willing to share your stories, and hopefully providing some of that light humor and camaraderie to the rest of the audience as well. Ronnie, since you've been behind the camera on a lot of these things, but also a hike participant, are there any moments that stand out, whether it's one of the ones that you featured in the documentary or just from observing all of the people that really kind of put two and two together and you saw that almost life-saving moment?
Oh yeah, plenty of times, but it's very rarely like a dramatic thing. It's subtle, and one of the great things about doing this whole documentary to begin with was just the process of discovery. Because again, I came into this blind. Nobody told me about it. I didn't get any emails or anything. I just happened to see it on my Facebook page or whatever, and then I showed up. So being behind the camera, people will naturally act out for you. But a lot of times you also get another perspective on everybody else. You get to kind of be a creeper, just watch while, this guy's been really serious. And then you see towards the end of the hike, they're a completely different person. The person that was, isolated, maybe shy.
Yeah.
There's veteran hikers. Everybody's a veteran at the hike, but there are veteran hikers within the elements who spot these people. They can spot the isolation, the seriousness, they can spot the pain, and they'll hone in on them and start, talking, trying to draw that out, maybe trying to get them to laugh. And I've caught a lot of that on camera. Also, what you'll see throughout the documentary is that there's a lot of repeat faces in a lot of very different places. This thing hooks you and it holds on to you. And it becomes one of those things. I've heard it said by a lot of people, like, I need my IW fix to get through this season, to get through whatever is going on in my life right now. I need a day to just let my hair down and be a veteran again, be around my friends, and just vent out. So again, when you're behind the camera, a lot of times these things reveal themselves. But it's always a subtle process. It's always extremely subtle. And some people, it takes them multiple hikes. I've met plenty of people that have gone to 2 or 3 hikes, barely said a word. And then by the 4th one, they're cracking jokes. I don't know what the evolution was, but somewhere along the way, they found their niche within this community. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. Honestly, like, this organization really does sell itself in that front. You got to go to at least one hike. If it doesn't work out for you, it's fine. Walk away. What did you lose? A Saturday morning? Yeah. But you could gain a whole lot of family, like we've been saying from the very get-go.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how the Irreverent Warriors organization, like, you guys have built a community. This isn't just the hikes. Like, Cindy, you were saying, hey, I sent out that message, I need help. I've been seeing it on the Irreverent Warriors Facebook group of just, as soon as somebody posts, hey, this is important to me, I don't know what to do about it, I'm in a dark place, you see like 50 people jump on that. You see all of the locals actually go to their house to make sure they're okay. It's truly a fascinating community. And I think this leads to one of the points that, Ronnie, you had just brought up of these hikes are for active duty and military, or active duty and veterans reservists only. Like, it is not open up to the spouses. It is not open up to the families. Cindy, would love to kind of get your perspective as the CEO of why is it so important that to participate in the hike itself, we're trying to keep that community within the military community, and how other people can get involved if they want to.
Sure. It started out from the very beginning. It is only active duty reservists, National Guard, and veterans. And we've had people come to us and say, well, what about a Gold Star wife? Or what about a politician in the community that wants to provide more in the community for veterans? What about first responders? And the answer is, unless they've served, this isn't where you belong. There are other organizations for that. But we feel like this is our safe place. It's basically a walking therapy session. And if your spouse may be perfectly safe for you and may be someone who empowers you and rescues you, and you find strength from them, but their presence doesn't mean that for other people. And so where a lot of people will see somebody else that's not a vet, even if it's just out of respect, they're going to watch their language, they're going to watch their tone, they're going to not say the things that need to be said that's up in their head that need to come out. We've seen when we get to stops and the families are able to participate, we see the interaction, And it does work for those people who have spouses or partners or friends that want to be there for them. But then when we step off from that stop, it's back to our safe place. And we can identify that. I literally watch the countenance of these people change. Mm-hmm. They're one way in the hike element, then they connect with civilians and do their thing, and then they step back into the element, and they're back to who they were, feeling safe and open. The walls come down. So I've watched that dynamic, and it doesn't mean that we don't need the family and spouses and friends, because we have to have the support. The day of the hike, we need simply registration and that type of administrative type work. But at the stops, we serve food. We play games. Friendly tug of war between branches is always popular. So when we get these people, they need to be ready when the element shows up. So there's so much that we can do to bring the families in to be a part of the day, but still keep the hike element itself, the moving element, a safe place.
Yeah. And I appreciate that from being a participant myself. Like it does absolutely make a difference, but also recognize in my role now as a civilian, and Nate, maybe you can talk a little bit about this one, but now IW is starting to expand. Like you guys are in 200 or more than 250 different cities internationally. We're launching the hike bag. We're starting to market a lot more. So why is it important that civilian allies or those who have no military experience are aware of Irreverent Warriors and your mission? And is there anything specific that they can do to help?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as Cindy alluded to, that support is absolutely necessary. I mean, you're not going to be able to have your veteran buddies around you every day, every second, but you don't necessarily need that. There's a big difference between understanding what your veteran family member, friend, spouse, whatever else, understanding what they need. You know, okay, you need camaraderie, but there's another type of understanding that comes from a veteran to another veteran. You know, you don't have to explain as much. You don't have to make as many excuses. You don't have to filter your language. And I don't just mean, swearing, just what you say and how you say it. You're able to do things a little bit differently. That being said, this is not intended to exclude the civilian counterparts and our supporters from the veteran community. And we aren't trying to develop that culture in our organization where we're like, veterans, we are by ourselves, we're better than others. That's not it at all. One of the things that every single one of our coordinators is encouraged to do is get into the community, talk to those supporting businesses, all of our stops, all of our sponsors. We could not do it without community support. And at the end of the day, that spouse, that significant other or friend, understanding and encouraging the veteran to get into this place, that doesn't discourage them from coming home again. That allows them to get that out of their system, take care of what they need to, connect with veterans. So when they have that dark moment, they can reconnect, they can reach out, or that connection can reach out to them. But yeah, it's huge. I would say that's one of the primary things we try to encourage. You might not understand, you might not get how these hikes are so therapeutic, how they're so meaningful, if you're looking at it from a civilian perspective. But you have to be understanding enough about the condition to encourage them to go. And the element isn't for everybody. Irreverent Warriors isn't for every veteran. But we definitely include as many veterans as want to come out. Like Ronnie said, give it a shot. You might be surprised. The melting pot of veterans we have in and around our organization is crazy. You'll go into an element of 100 veterans, and this is probably a societal thing where all veterans are kind of put in the same tank, right? You're a veteran, you're a veteran. You're military, you're military. We see it completely differently. You can have deployed to the same places, have the same MOS, stayed in the same amount of time and be the same age, and need two completely different things. Every veteran is so individual. But yeah, we desperately need community support. One of the things that we've done for the last 7 years is do almost all of our operations on the back of a volunteer force. All of our veteran local leaders, most of our staff, almost everyone in our organization is a volunteer. And that's something that it's not going to last forever. It's not completely sustainable. You know, these leaders working a full-time job, taking care of their family, and then spending another 10 to 20 hours a week working with the organization, that wears on you. So we also understand that we need to take care of our veterans, the ones that are supporting the network. And that's the other way that volunteers can come in from the outside, not only just on hike day, but spreading the word, garnering support for our mission. Because at the end of the day, this thing needs to become sustainable to the point where we have a full-time staff, and all of our operational requirements aren't just falling on volunteers day to day.
Yeah. Hopefully the launch of your documentary tomorrow will really highlight this and be able to spread the word to the broader community, and not just the military community, but all of the people who are tuning in today, or just interested, or maybe even the ones who just stumble upon this show somehow. Or like me, you're walking around Navy Pier and all of a sudden you see a group of people in really, really short shorts and you have no idea what's going on. So you have to Google it, and then you figure out what it is that you guys are doing. Ronnie, this is kind of like your brainchild, the hike back. Like I understand that it started as, hey, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. I'm just going to show up with a camera and kind of figure it out. During that process, how did you come to discover, hey, we need a documentary? This is the story that we're going to tell. Can you talk us through just some of the creative process that you went through in creating this documentary, and anything that you would like to highlight to the audience before it premieres tomorrow?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, it wasn't my idea to have the documentary. They were way ahead of the ball on this. They had somebody else already pre-producing and filming the documentary. Unfortunately, that person did not work out. So they had already seen my work for them. And then they're like, hey, Ronnie, do you want to step in? I literally quit my full-time job. I literally quit my full-time job, and we moved all over the country with a camera. My fiance now, by the way, Nate was talking about civilian support. She's literally like the marketing liaison for IW. She's a civilian. And like the entire time she was my psychiatrist and my psychologist, because I thought there's no way I can do this. It's too much. It's too much footage. It's too much story. Like, how do I cut this story out when somebody just completely spilled their heart out talking about the darkest thing that's going on with them? And now in the editing process, I have to be like, it doesn't serve the greater story of IW. So that in itself was a challenge, and it was a huge flex as an editor and as a filmmaker in general. The entire process was almost journalistic in nature. It was like a discovery process, because again, I went from zero knowledge to being all the way in the inside, getting the inside scoop. That in itself was a completely different set of skills that I never picked up in college or in film school or anything. So it was really like just a growth process. And through IW and the connections I made in IW, I actually got the job that I currently have, my full-time job here in Texas. Not going to name names, but I work for Grunt Style. Okay, I'll say it. I work for Grunt Style. All right, so who are watching, by the way. So yeah, but again, it just shows like just the serendipity of all of this. I started out, just doing videography for some corporation. I was deeply unhappy. One day I get a phone call from Danny, the founder, and then from Cindy. It's like, hey, do you want to take over this documentary? We can pay you this much. And I was like, I can't keep the lights on with that, but yes, I'll do it. I'll do it. And you know what? I have zero regrets. Like, it was, everything just landed right where it needed to. And that's what I would say to maybe like some filmmaker that's out there listening to this. If you come across this, here's Ronnie's advice. Take a chance. Sometimes you got to take a chance. And you know what? It was an easy bet on IW, because this organization is truly so close to my heart that just filming it was a privilege. I honestly, if they had said, we can't pay you a cent, I would have figured it out. I would have sold all my clothes and I would have done something, but I would have still done this documentary, because it's a story worth telling. And there's nobody out there telling these particular stories of healing. It's great to talk about all the combat stories. Oh, you get your adrenaline up while you're watching Black Hawk Down. nobody talks about how those guys all came home and they had depression and PTSD or nothing like that. But I get to do that. And so I don't know. Honestly, if I could do it again, my only regret is that the documentary's already done and I can't do it again because it was such a lovely process.
Yeah. And I just have to plug from my perspective that there are so many different things that you can do after you leave the military. I know just in hiring in general, one of the things that we see is, oh, hey, where does the veteran fit? And I think Nate was talking about this earlier, but there are 1,000 plus, 1 million plus different flavors of veterans. So we have all got different talents. And Ronnie, I'm so glad that we're being able to see yours in this documentary because, I mean, Cindy sent me the link a little sneakily. I watched it and was like, oh my gosh, like, why isn't anybody else seeing this? So this is just a fantastic way of telling the story and also just showcasing your talent and also showcasing the fact that veterans have some creative streaks in them and they need to come out in different ways. And we're all human at the end of the day. And these hikes and this community is just because we have so many shared experiences that this is really what Cindy was saying, a safe place to truly be yourself. So coming up in 2023, besides the Hike Back documentary that's coming out tomorrow, I'm just going to continue to plug that this entire time. But are there any other big initiatives that you would like to direct people to at this time? Anything you're excited about coming up in the next few months or the next year?
Are we talking film-wise?
Film, IW, either.
Oh, okay. Well, this might be a Nate and Cindy question, I think. I don't know if you guys
well, I guess we haven't told Ronnie yet about the Hike Back that we're going to do next year. There's also going to be work for you to do, buddy. I mean, that's the beauty and complexity of the story that he told with the documentary is that you don't ever run out of material or things to talk about. The diversity you mentioned in the veteran community is ridiculous, and everybody needs this kind of content. It will make a difference. It's going to make a huge difference. As far as our organization, the biggest thing that we're doing as an organization is trying to ensure that the hike is not the end point. That is the introduction. Mm-hmm. Like I said, a volunteer force, there's only so much we can throw at these guys, but they are so invested in this mission and in the organization and in their family that they're throwing alternative events, barbecues, poker tournaments, river floats, you name it. All of these communities are staying engaged. And that is one of the huge things that we are encouraging throughout the organization. One of the things that we are working on now internationally is making sure that all of our veterans, all of our leaders are consistently engaged and that they have the opportunity for training, development, and mentorship. All of these local communities, they operate autonomously in so many different ways. And obviously it takes a lot of support, not only from their local community, from their civilian supporters, but from the organization and its leaders. I would say that's one of our major initiatives is just providing them more opportunities to feel that investment from the organization, and then making sure that we continue to press for this diversity in our events. A Silkies hike isn't going to be for every veteran, and we know that. I mean, that's our culture. That will always be our calling card. But we can't run 12 Silkies hikes in a location. It's just, it's impossible. So without an army. But we want to run alternative events throughout the year. And then the other thing is we want to bring these events and this community and the value it provides to more communities. Obviously, we have to temper how much we grow and scale this organization so that we can maintain all of the operations behind the scenes. But really, we're trying to stay focused to what we do best. Our mantra has become the first part of our mission statement. We bring veterans together. And that has been embodied by our leadership from top to bottom. We're trying to stay focused there. You know, we are the introduction. We provide resources, support. We'll connect you to financial support, mental health support, crisis support, you name it. But our job as an organization is to create community across the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Ronnie, I think you might have just heard your next documentary, The Float Back, because I think that one sounds
The Float Back? Okay, we'll work on the title, but yeah.
We'll work on it, but we can start noodling now. I know coming up, we're about to show your trailer, and also just wanted to plug to the live audience because I know that the chat is blowing up and I just can't see it. But we're going to open up the question to anybody on the call, internal Googlers, the Dory, if you will, right after we show the trailer. So we still have about 10 minutes left in content. So we'll show the trailer and answer or start asking away those questions, because then the floor is everybody's to really be able to pick your brains and showcase everything that Irreverent Warriors and the Hike Back are bringing to the community. So without further ado, let's switch over to the preview of the Hike Back.
Last night, 22 of us didn't go to sleep. There was 22 of us that were on this earth yesterday did not wake up this morning. This is why we do these things. In all seriousness, the civilian world doesn't fucking understand us. Not one damn bit. This is what works. Reconnecting, having some camaraderie, knowing that we're not alone. Too many of us get lost in the shuffle. And so that's why we have these things.
All right. If that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will. Can we please start to bring up the questions from the audience? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep asking away and having Ronnie tell all of his cool stories. Awesome. So the first question that we have from the audience, and actually it's Ronnie on our end, he says, thank you all for everything you do for veterans. What is the best way for veterans to get connected with Irreverent Warriors, and how can we see the Hike Back? And how can veteran supporters contribute to IW?
Yeah, one of the best ways, obviously, is to get to a hike. But on our website, you can sign up for our newsletter, and that's going to get you connected with the ongoing current events. Every city, every hike city has a Facebook group. So you just type in IW in the city. And so that's when you can start connecting with people in that community and start developing those relationships and start getting involved in the activities that they have going on right then. And as far as seeing the Hike Back, obviously tomorrow it'll be screened live, but we are starting to do screenings in some of the hike cities. We've got 4 this year, but starting in January next year, we're just trying to get through this year's hike season, but starting in January, I'm guessing that pretty much every hike city at some point is going to have a screening. So, I mean, we will keep that that information current in our newsletter.
Yes. Also, we do have a Facebook page and Instagram for the Hike Back, and that's where we've been posting a lot of the all of the information for where the screenings are at and the dates, the times, and all that stuff. I believe we did provide that to you guys, and I think y'all's Ronnie made a graphic, or might have made a graphic with the handle so people can reach out. And just follow us. And if every time there's a screening nearby, or if you want to get involved and set up your own screening, this might be a good way to get your exposure to IW. Maybe you don't want to go to a hike, but you can go to one of these screenings, meet people, and develop relationships there. Start like that.
Awesome. And since this is mostly the veteran community watching, we all know that we're a little bit shy when it comes to asking questions. So sometimes that's something that people volunteer you to do. But I'm going to take the silence as I'm going to continue asking you questions, because we're talking about your documentary. We're talking about the Hike Back and Irreverent Warriors. And one of the biggest things this week and about what you guys are doing is, again, going back to humor. So I'm sure there's a lot of different funny stories that you guys have kind of come across, Ronnie, from behind the scenes, or Nate and Cindy from actually producing this. Is there any memorable moment that just kind of centralizes Irreverent Warriors for you, or just kind of says, hey, this is exactly the moment that I knew that this is what I was going to be doing for the next few years of my life?
Wow, that is surprisingly hard. There's so many, but how many can we tell in a family environment? Nate, you got something? Censor.
Oh, I have so many. I really do. But like Ronnie said, it's one of those, which one do I share and not get myself in trouble? But one of my favorites is it started with kind of a new hiker experience in the organization. Like Ronnie said earlier, we'll have hikers that'll attend 3 or 4 hikes before they really start coming out of their shell. Mm-hmm. And we had one of our hikers, I'm not going to name names for this story, but we had one of our hikers, and he came in with this attitude. A lot of us do, this masculine bravado, right? And his first hike, he shows up and he had this look, and it was almost a little bit of disdain as he's watching everybody interact in their silky shorts. And he was just kind of standoffish. And he was wearing, I'm going to say, he was wearing pants. He was wearing, I think, ACUs. And not trying to pick on the Army or anything, but he was wearing ACUs and a flannel. And he was just really, really kind of quiet and reserved, wasn't really interacting with many people. And by the end of the day, he was still that same kind of quiet person, but he was up near the front. And I was trying to help them pace the hike as we're closing in. And I noticed that he was kind of moving up to the front, and I was hoping he wasn't just trying to look for a quick escape. And he told the darkest suicide story I've heard in a while. And it was his own. He was like, I was going to kill myself. These were all the situations involved. But he told it in like 20 seconds. It was the heaviest hitting 20 seconds I've heard in a minute. And he finished with this flourish and then just started laughing. And just the engagement around him, like everybody's just kind of really quiet and reserved as they're listening to this really dark story. They're like, oh, damn, dude, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's harsh. I'm so sorry. And then he finished with this little twist at the very end. And it was, and then I dropped my magazine. And everybody died laughing. And one of my buddies picks him up and yeets him into a ditch. Like just picks the guy up and throws him. He starts laughing. My buddy laughs. The next hike came in silkies. You don't have to, but it's encouraged. And you just saw that continue to grow. And they're now some of the best of buddies. But that was a perfect example of somebody taking something dark, something serious and somber, and communicating it in their own way. He didn't want everybody to break down around him and start crying or offer him sympathy. You know, he just wanted to be heard, and then he wanted to be included. And that's what he got in our own special way.
Yeah, that's hilarious. And I dropped my magazine. Okay. Well, I
dropped my magazine. Story over.
It's gonna raise a lot of eyebrows, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this call too are still like trying to wrap their heads around it. And like you guys were saying, sometimes it's not just like the first hike that you're gonna get it. It's gonna take 2 or 3 before you're comfortable coming out of your shell, because operating in normal society sometimes is a little bit difficult when you're in or when you're first getting out. We've all been there. Cindy and Nate, did you guys come up with anything? Because if not, there is one more question in the queue, and we can let you guys go with this one. I mean, Cindy and Ronnie.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to add too is that even if you go to your first hike and you just don't feel like it's the magic that you are expecting, every hike is different. Every hike city has its own personality, its own flavors. We do different things. So, and again, we're not for everybody. We understand that. But when you find this as your community, you're gonna want to keep going to the next hike, because it's not the same experience. Every hike experience is different, no matter where it is. I mean, it's going to be different. And I think that's really the only point I wanted to make. Just because the first hike isn't something you're expecting, don't quit. Because every hike's different. So much different.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh yeah. And the other part of it is it isn't. We talked about it earlier. This isn't a magic pill. Like, if you want to show up and completely isolate yourself, if you want to leave lonely, if you're just expecting the organization to save you, there's only so much we can do. I don't care if you're a part of Irreverent Warriors, another organization, or the veteran community at large. You've got to do something. You've got to make that uncomfortable decision to show up, whatever event it is, whether it's a hike or not. And then you have to choose to be a part of the mission. We can't force you to do that. So I promise you, if you show up And if you have that mentality of, I'm going to engage, I'm going to do something, this is the next step, you'll find your people. They are everywhere. And in some ways, different people in the element will do different things for you. But the overall just environment of not just support, but it's light. A lot of people hear the word irreverence and they automatically think, well, those guys don't give a shit about anything. Just used a swear word. That's my bad, guys. I knew it was coming again. But anyway, they don't care. They don't care. And that's not it. We care very deeply. It's about dealing with something that's usually dealt with in a somber attitude, in silence and quiet, tears and hymns or whatever. And it's breaking that down. And instead of dealing it with it like that, taking your knee and tucking back into the darkness, it's about finding some way to find something positive as a next step. And that's what our version of irreverence is all about. It's giving the darkness some light. And in our network, in our community, our veterans are that little aspect of light that you need in the dark times.
Yeah, and I think we're all just rolling on the floor laughing at this point. So we have time for one more audience question, if we can flash that up and see what this is. So Julio asked, and that was a very close up of my face, thank you for what you do. First time I've heard of your org. Do you have or have you partnered with Wounded Warrior projects before? And I think adding to the question, I asked because he's the squad leader for his neighborhood's yearly Wounded Warrior Project Carry Forward 5K.
Awesome. So I'll kind of take this one if you guys don't mind, at risk of having to mute myself in a second. I kid, I'll be good. But for our organization, I mentioned our mantra, bringing veterans together, is kind of our calling card now. That's how we operate. On a micro scale, that's us connecting a veteran with another veteran. And on a macro scale, and it's reflected in our core values of the organization, it's being a force that unites the veteran community. So yes, we've worked in small collaborations with different local Wounded Warrior Project organizers. We haven't worked on a national level, organization to organization, and collaborated. But we will work with just about any veteran nonprofit. And in my mind, there's so much power in the veteran community. And one of the issues is it's fragmented. So many people are fighting over their share of the veteran market. We just want to work with others. We do one thing really, really well. And there's other organizations we work with that do other things really well. So definitely hit us up and let's talk about how to make that happen.
Awesome. And we have the Irreverent Warriors websites that everybody on this call can go to see where do you actually go to attend one of these viewings. And it's highly, highly encouraged. If you're facing any sort of mental health issue right now, Google offers g.co/serving veterans. And just wanted to say, again, a huge thank you to Nate, Cindy, and Ronnie and Irreverent Warriors for showing up. The first step, as you heard from them, to this chat and to share their story with us. I am incredibly honored and grateful for the opportunity to talk to you guys. Wish you guys the best of luck and see you all at the next hike.
Thank you, Shannon. We love you.
Thank you for the opportunity.